I'm Mike.
And I'm Adam.
And this is Stuff and Waffle. Two friends talking about stuff, and often as not, waffling with frequent reference to Bond cars. I'm afraid we have to talk.
Oh, God.
It's just not working anymore.
Okay. Oh, we've yet to reach fame and fortune. Let's get there first.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot we were going to do that. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, dump me later.
I have, I'm afraid I have come to a very difficult decision.
I see.
And it's taken much deliberation. But I have come to the inescapable conclusion that I am going to have to sell my car.
Oh, dear.
Yes. As much as I love it and it's brilliant and all of that stuff, it's about to get a lot more expensive. And the world, the way it is, I'm working from home mostly now. The car isn't moving for 2 or 3 weeks at a time sometimes. Just can't justify it. It's that, unfortunately, is the sad truth of electric cars at the moment, is that they are ridiculously cheap to run. They are still rather expensive to have. And
Yes.
Tesla Model S particularly so. It was purchased under a special offer, which we'll never get again. And I say purchased, PCP finance.
Yeah.
And it's going to more than double the monthlies to keep it. Yeah, I just can't justify it. It's just too big of a cost for what is most of the time just a drive ornament.
That's a tricky one. When you're going to have to be sensible about it. You can't have something sat on the driveway that you're paying virtually near the same as your mortgage for.
Yeah, well, no, it's not quite that
in.
much, but yes, but it's
going to get that way, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's going to get that way, and just can't justify it as much as we would like to keep it. And it's brilliant, and I've not changed my opinion of electric cars in any way. Not changed my opinion of Tesla. It's all been fantastic over the last 4 years, but we're just not using it. Off it must go. Not a bad time to sell right now. Used prices are up. You can't actually buy a new Model S at the moment. They're between models. They've stopped making the older one, and they haven't yet started making the plaid versions. So the only way to get a Model S at the moment is to buy a used one. So prices are up. It's not a bad time to get it shifted. So
that's something at least.
So that is what's going to happen. We still have the Fiesta ST, which has been the subject of another podcast.
It has. That's not a bad vehicle to be lumbered with. So
no, quite happy to be tooling around in that if I need to. Yes, the Model S must go, to the point where it has this week been collected by a dealer who is going to sell it for me. So yes, had the painful sight of watching it go off on a trailer this week with a very nice man. But nevertheless, he was taking my car away. So
yes, as much as he smiles, it's still unpleasant.
Still unpleasant, and off it went. It's up for sale now for an amount of money that will allow me to clear the finance and buy something else. But that something else is not going to be an EV.
Well, you can hear the sharp intakes of breath everywhere.
Oh, I think you can. I've done one myself. As this is only likely to be a bit of a stopgap. Well, there's two ways I could handle it. It's either going to be a bit of a stopgap, and then we'll come back to EV later. Well, we will be coming back to EV later because everyone will. So
this is true.
We will have another one. This is only a temporary situation. The world's still in a weird place, but we will come back to it. I could get just some sort of cheap throwaway to run for a little while and then get rid of it and then have another EV, or I could potentially spend a little bit more and get something that I possibly might even want to tuck away. And if I can buy right, possibly something that may even hold its value, if not even go up a little bit.
Well, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, as
Hard to
much
achieve, I know, and I've never been able to achieve it so far, but
worth a punt. And I mean, as much as, like you say, you could buy a shitter, and as much as I would love to see you in a Perodua Canary or something like that, I think you're probably better going for a potential investment piece.
I think so. Not something I would necessarily look to convert to electric in the future. Something that is kind of special in its own right. Because as we've touched on before, converting to electric, it kind of needs to be something that the engine is not really its strong point. You need to pick something that's special in some other way. I believe we might have even mentioned the Citroen DS at one point as a prime candidate because it was about its engine. It was all about the rest of it. The engine was
Yes.
actually a bit of a weak point, and taking the engine out and replacing it with an electric drivetrain, you are actually improving it.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, something else that's very much about its engine, that would be harder to do, I think. And as you're looking at stuff that's more modern, it's going to be harder to do as well. Because modern cars have got all sorts of electronic systems and sensors that interface back to the computer and all that kind of stuff. If you take all that out, it's not going to work.
Can of worms.
Yeah, it's going to be massively more difficult to do it. So my thought process is, let's not just get a throwaway. Let's actually get something that might be worth hanging on to.
Okay.
Even when I go back to electric for a daily. My good lady says I shouldn't worry too much about economy and all that kind of stuff and emissions and all that too much this time. I should get something that I like, something that's fun, something that perhaps I've always wanted, and not worry too much about this one because it's not forever. This is a short term. It will only be the daily for a short period of time, even if I then decide to keep it. Yeah, so it's kind of we're going to be going shopping.
Well, this is very exciting.
Indeed. Every cloud and all that.
Oh, yes. I'm assuming you've got a short list.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we all have a short list in our heads every so often, don't we? Just in case. Well, what would I get if I didn't have that?
I get the feeling, though, you might have written this one down.
Yeah, there might be a spreadsheet.
Man maths.
Yeah, it's important.
Good.
Yeah.
Right. Go on then. Is this in any particular order of preference or just contenders?
No, this is not in any. Well, I can do it in an order of preference.
Okay. I'd like that, but I would like it in ascending order.
Would you?
I would.
Hey, okay. I'll see what I can do. There's a bit of a theme on the list.
No one's going to be surprised, and nor am I.
No, indeed. There are only 2 manufacturers that appear on my hit list. Well, that's not quite true, actually. There's 3. And I have done, on my analysis, I have not compared to the Tesla in terms of, performance or, anything like, because you can't, clearly.
No.
Whatever I get is going to be slower. There's nothing more in terms of how you live with it. So size is a big thing. Things like type of suspension, hatchback, saloon, or estate, things like that. You can't compare, although my analysis does compare fuel consumption, tax, emissions, insurance. You can't compare those to the Tesla, so that's not
not at all.
That.
But like you say, living with, especially where we are, size is a big factor.
Yes, it is, and that's my only criticism of the Model S. Really, is that it's just too big for North Devon. It doesn't fit. I mean, you've driven it yourself. You know, it's a sizable vehicle.
You are aware of its enormousness.
Yes, well, it's the width really, rather than the length.
Yeah.
And it is huge. And what our pathetic excuse for A roads down here are what in some counties they wouldn't even call unnamed roads. So now that's not to say I'm going to get something small.
Oh, we're going back to the Perodria.
No, we're not.
Oh,
Strangely.
shame.
Then that's not one of the manufacturers that's on my list. You'll be perhaps disappointed to hear. The three manufacturers involved here are Ford, BMW, and Jaguar.
Oh, Jag, you say?
Jaguar feature quite heavily, and it's extremely likely that it will be a Jaguar. It would be my third, meaning that I will have had more Jags than anything else.
That's fine, but I need to know about them because you need to come to me for approval, you see.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, is that how this is going to work?
Yeah.
I see. Oh, okay.
Come on, you know how this works now.
Must be nice in your little world there.
Yep. Up on this pedestal's bloody lovely.
Did you? Yes. Did you say ascending or descending order of priority? I can't remember.
May I have it in ascending order, please?
Ascending, so least likely first.
That's it.
Okay. Then we are starting with the Ford.
Oh dear, it's a bit harsh.
No, it's a wonderful. I mean, they're all. I say least likely, but I mean, I would be happy with any of these.
Okay.
It's not. They wouldn't have got on the list if I couldn't see myself with one.
Yeah.
So least likely, but still perfectly acceptable.
Okay then.
So we've started, and it's a car I'm sure we must have mentioned at some point before, but we're starting with the Mondeo ST220 Estate.
Well, it's a strong start, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Mm.
There are a few around. It seemed to be averaging around the sort of £3,000-4,000 mark.
It's a strong choice. It really is. It's a thinking man's choice.
The problem is finding one that's not been nosed around with.
Oh, yeah, there'll be a bit of dicking about. Someone will have thought, I can improve on that.
Yeah. I have actually seen one where the Ford badges have been replaced with Batman logos. I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I don't know what's going on there.
I've not seen every incarnation of Batmobile, but that wasn't one of them. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he didn't have Mondeo at any point.
I don't remember him being in a Mondeo. No, I mean maybe that's something he missed out on, but I don't recall it.
Oh dear! Right,
perhaps he should have. Yeah, perhaps
dear.
He should have. It wasn't even black; it was blue.
Well, most of them are, aren't they? It's a popular choice, that colour.
That I don't know what it's called, but that sort of metallic royal blue.
Lovely.
Loads in that colour. The Focus RS is in the same colour, most of them, and I believe the Mark I Focus ST was often in that colour as well.
It was, and listeners will recall that's the colour of Phil's. The one that he had, yes.
That's true. The keen listener will recall that. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, 3-litre V6 manual transmission, 222 brake horsepower. This is like top trumps, isn't it?
It is.
Not like that.
No,
phrase has taken on a whole different meaning.
That bloody Oompa Loompas ruined it.
He has. No one can play top trumps anymore.
Nope.
No. You have to rename that.
Yeah.
Tax is a little bit getting up there. £585 a year for that.
Oh dear.
But most of these my choices are around that mark. So.
Well, it's just that sort of piss take era. But was it post 2001, and the government basically just it's chainmail glove on, and they're going in.
It's indeed,
yeah.
And this is prime that era because it's 2000 to 2007 they made the ST220 estate. So that's where it is.
If you end up with one of those, I am going to be green with envy.
Are you?
Yes.
then I'm going to mark it in green on my spreadsheet.
Right. Okay. Good. I like that.
But it is at the bottom of the list because I think there's things I would like more. But as you said, it is a strong contender. It would butter many parsnips.
It would, and I'm gonna judge you on what you've put above it, to be honest. So
Well, interesting, because the manufacturers are not all grouped together on this list.
interesting. So
Yes.
what would you put slightly ahead of this?
Slightly ahead of this, I would put a Jaguar XJ Sport Premium with the diesel engine, the 2.7 diesel. We're talking X350.
Okay.
Here.
Yep.
Short wheelbase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Sport Premium has been selected for a very specific reason. And it's a reason which I think will play strongly here. Because the XJ 2.7 TDVI Sport Premium of 2006 vintage specifically featured in the James Bond film Spectre.
Okay.
That is partly why there is an XJ diesel on my list.
Okay, so that's where the lure lies.
Yes, it's a Bond car on a budget. It was what we assumed to be M's personal car in Spectre. It was
I
the
do
one
recall.
driven by M with Bond in the passenger seat. It's the
That's
car
right.
that gets rammed at the end of the film and completely mullered. They had a little aside here. They had 6 XJs for the filming, only one of which survived, I believe, and it was sold at auction a little while ago. And it had an Exeter registration, which
I was
is
going to say, yeah,
us, yes,
registered in our neck of the woods.
Indeed, WD06, I believe, which is an Exeter 2006 Exeter registration. I don't know if that was the real registration of one of the cars they've got. The one that was auctioned didn't have that plate on it, but Eon Productions, who make the Bond films, do have a bit of a history of retaining the plates that are on the cars they use.
Oh, the screen plates, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
It could be that it was a genuine plate on one of the cars, but they kept it.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
Because they tend to then put them back on other cars later on, for
That's
promotional work. So they tend to keep the plates that they've. So it could be entirely random, but that they have retained it.
Yep.
So yes,
it's a good choice because yes, you got the Bond link there, which neither of us are going to turn that down. But there's something about. I mean, it's an XJ thing across the board, but
yeah,
they're just a bit naughty and a bit sinister.
They are.
I like that.
Especially the Sport Premium has a very similar look to the XJR in that it doesn't have a lot of chrome on it. There is some on the Sport Premium. There isn't any on the XJR, but there is some on the Sport Premium. But it's got the XJR wheels, XJR grille, XJR seats. It's almost an XJR, except it's got the smaller diesel engine. That, of course, does bring its tax right down. It's half the tax of the Mondeo we were just discussing, because, of course, it has much lower emissions. So it's a 2.7 V6 twin turbo. However,
you do end up with a diesel.
You do end up with a diesel. You also end up with a car running on air suspension, which will give my good lady horrible air sickness. Air sickness? No. Well, I suppose technically it is. Car sickness.
Yeah, that's it.
Air sickness and car sickness at the same time. It's horrible.
Oh, dear.
Because my XF was on air and she hated it. It used to wallow too much. The problem with air suspension, particularly air suspension of that age, is that it's very wallowy at low speeds. It works at higher speeds, but if you're just going around town, it's very wallowy.
Right. Okay.
It's too soft, and she didn't like the feel of it at all. And that
Mm.
and the XJ has that system. It's on air suspension. Plus, in an XJ of that era, to be honest, it's just something else to go wrong. Well, it is, isn't it? Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. I know where you're coming from. No, yeah, that could prove problematic. You don't want a nice XJ full of vomit.
Not ideally. Now, I have been in an XJ of that era quite recently, and it is glorious from the driver's seat. The boot is very disappointing. The boot on those XJs is pathetic.
Well, that's very
It's,
disappointing.
it's very deep, but very, very shallow. You're not going to get a lot in there.
Okay.
Which is a shame.
That's weird, isn't it?
It is weird. And I know why they did it, I think, because the X308, the previous generation, suffers from the same problem. If you make the boot bigger, you spoil the styling.
It's strange. I mean, because you think back to XJ40, and the boot on that was enormous.
It was, but I think that didn't have as much going on underneath. I mean, you've got to remember that.
Oh, that was an old car.
It's an older car. This newer car, it's got air suspension, it's got airbags and all sorts of gubbins going on, more crash protection. There's less room inside it, and I guess that's
they didn't really factor that in. I mean, an XJ is very popular with the gangsters.
Yeah, you're not getting a lot in it though.
No, that's the problem. If you need to be shifting the bodies about,
yeah, I think you'd struggle, especially if you'd done in a fat bloke. He's not going in there. You're gonna have to prop him up in the back seat and sort of pretend.
No, it doesn't look good. No,
you're gonna have to duct tape his head to the headlining, and you know what the headlining like is. Those it will come down no sooner as look at it.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You can't be doing that.
No, that's an oversight on Jag's part.
You're going to ruffle your velour doing that. So, yeah, the boot was very disappointing. The other downside is that it's almost as big as the Model S. It's not quite as wide. It is actually slightly longer. And
yeah, I mean, the Model S didn't strictly fit in our parking spaces anyway, did it really? Lengthwise or widthwise?
Nope, not at all. And the XJ is, lengthwise going to be even worse.
Oh, more protrusion.
Yeah, exactly. Your chrome sticking out all over the place you have.
Oh, and some knobhead round here will hit that.
Yes, they will, unfortunately. And that's the short wheelbase. If you were to find yourself with a long wheelbase,
oh dear,
huge.
Oh yeah.
So
right. Oh,
now there are 3 XJs of that vintage on my list. Obviously, they've all got the same body, so those points are valid for all of those. And the XJ, I've kind of all lumped together. So I've got the XJ 2.7 Sport Premium. I've then got the XJ. I looked at an XJ6 because, of course, with that you get a 3.2 litre V6 petrol.
You do? Yeah, it's very nice.
Very nice. And if it's spec'd right, you can also, get the XJR thing going on. You can put an XJR grill on it. You can have XJR wheels.
Yeah,
and an XJ6, whilst it's a name from Jaguar's history, very good name. The XJ6 was a fantastic car originally. Yes, it's not as powerful, but it sounds better.
Everyone loves a 6.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not exactly underpowered.
No, not at all.
So that is tempting. They're a little bit more money than the 2.7 diesel, and the tax, interestingly, is exactly the same.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
No, I wasn't. That was a surprise. But they are, they're basically the same car as the 2.7, but with a slightly nicer engine.
Well, that
fuel consumption's a bit worse, but not massively worse, actually. You're about 10 miles per gallon worse than the diesel with the 3.2 V6, which on a car of that size is not bad.
Oh, you'd get over it.
Yeah. Well, the whole point of this is that I'm not doing the mileage. If I was doing the mileage, I could justify a Model 3.
Well, that's it. But
That's the whole point of this, is that actually the fuel consumption is not the primary concern here, because if I was up and down the motorway every day, clearly I'd have another EV. So
yeah, no, it's a valid point.
This is a different thing. So then on top of that, I've got no, see, I'm struggling in the next point because I've got two that are vying for position here.
Oh Christ! Right.
Yeah. Well, what do
Go
I
on
put
then.
next? What do I
Well,
put
I'll tell you
next?
what. If you pick what you think's next, and if you've got it wrong, I'll tell you. Well, obviously, once you reveal the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second one, or the next one, sorry. We've done the second one.
Yeah.
Sorry. The next one, yeah, and I've struggled with this a bit.
Oh.
The next one would be a Jaguar XFS.
Right, okay. So this is territory that you almost know.
I've had an
the saloon
XFS
version.
This would be the saloon version. The sport brakes are still a little bit too much money for this purpose. They've held their value because they were newer, because they didn't do a sport brake when they first launched the XF. That came in 2012, whereas the XF was launched in 2007 as a replacement for the S-Type. So the XFS, we'd be talking pre-facelift, the X250 to use the code.
And I'm glad that you did.
No, you'd be disappointed if I didn't. And I'd be looking at the 3-litre V6 twin turbo diesel, because the only petrol in the lineup. Well, they did do a 3-litre V6 petrol, but they're really rare. It's very hard to find. They did do one as well with a 4.2-litre V8, the same engine that was in the S-Type, but again, quite rare because they didn't do it for long. The only other one, and that came later, was the XFR, which is a 5-litre supercharged V8. But again, those are still too much money. You're talking 12, 15 grand for a decent one of those.
Okay.
You can find them for less than 5, but they are uber high mileage, and they are, I would imagine, likely to have been thrashed. I did see one for under 5 grand, and it had done 249,000 miles.
Bloody hell!
Yes, I mean, to be fair, it looked in quite good shape, but
that's not bad going.
No, I was impressed with that. You don't see many that have done that kind of mileage.
No,
especially as it was an XFR. I mean, the fuel consumption on that is
colossal.
Yes.
No, I think you're right to avoid that, though. That's probably a can of worms.
An XFR is not on the list. An ordinary XF would be, but the S does have that little bit extra oomph that I would be looking for. So, and I'd also quite like it, if at all possible, in either premium luxury or portfolio trim levels, because the luxury, which was the entry level, was a bit basic. You didn't get a lot for your money on the luxury.
Okay, well, less to go wrong.
True. The premium luxury in the portfolio, you got things like heated and cooled seats. You got like a reversing camera, Bluetooth, Alcantara headliner, all that kind of stuff. Better audio system. You got upgraded audio. You got 13-way adjustable seats. There's just a lot of nice little bits on the portfolio. Yeah, so those I looked at for quite a long time. I've always kept an eye on XFs. Quite like them. My good lady didn't like the XF that we had. Now, one important difference between the pre-facelift saloons and the one I had is that they're on coil spring suspension, not air.
That'll be a big deal for your good lady.
The sport brake was only available with air suspension. The saloon was only available on coil springs. So a different setup completely.
Your sport brake, didn't you have a light interior in that as well?
It had an ivory interior, yes, very just kind of an off-white.
No, she did not like that.
That wasn't the biggest issue, though. We've touched on this before. The biggest issue was its chromed dashboard.
Yeah. Ah, yes.
Yes.
Hit the sun at the wrong point, and that's it. Vision gone.
Right. Eye surgery. Yeah. Absolutely. You could correct your retinas on the way to work in the morning.
I was going to
Um,
say you could sell cataract surgery in there.
oh yeah, I'll give you a lift. We'll be done in 20 minutes. Yeah, just do not put that sun visor down. Yes.
Oh dear.
So so the XF has a few things counting against it, even though it is a more modern car than the other Jaguars that we've mentioned.
You on the XJ you mentioned the boot. How does the XF Saloon compare?
Much, much better. I mean, it's a different shape car. Plus, critically in the XF, the back seats go down. So obviously, then that gives you oodles more room. One of the
Yes.
criteria my good lady has given me is that I need to be able to get our Christmas tree in it because we have a real tree every year, and I need to be able to go and collect it. So I need to be able to fill my car with pine needles once a year, and an XJ ain't going to do that. Not a
Well,
chance. You'll get a
we've
real Christmas
touched on
tree on one of
this.
those. Yes, we have.
We've said that I've got the perfect tree gathering vehicle, so you could
You
probably
do.
cross that off
You
your
do.
criteria list.
But to be fair, I don't like the idea of having a desperately impractical vehicle. I like having something I can chuck a reasonable amount in, which is why I've had estate cars in the past.
Well, that's it. You're thinking correctly because you're going, well, let's put a decent boot on it and
Yeah.
not buy an SUV like every other twat.
There are no SUVs on my list and never have been.
I don't know. I'd sign off now.
Yes, the end, isn't it? I'll have crashed
Yeah,
the podcast.
all done.
All done now. I did briefly, just to see what they were going for, have a look at Range Rovers. But Series 1, in my defense,
Yeah,
Series
that's
1,
fine. I don't lump those in with the rest of it.
no, they're very different, aren't they? They're a
Mm.
very different proposition. Problem is getting on a bit now.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, pricey, I'd imagine, and problematic.
Prices of the early ones are really because what's happened, same thing's happened with the Classic Mini, which also isn't on my list, you'll be amazed to hear, is that all the rough ones have kind of disappeared.
Mm.
So the only ones left now are ones that have either been beautifully cared for or carefully restored, either of which are commanding much bigger values. I mean, you can spend a lot more on a Series 1 than you can on the later ones now.
Right.
Series 1 Vogue SE, yeah, you can pay proper money for now.
It's pants down at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, especially if you go for the V8. And of course, there is a V8 diesel available on the Range Rover.
Oh, blimey.
But no, not on the list, although I did have a brief look because I was just interested to see what they were going for now.
Too much, as it turns out.
That is a car that you could consider electric converting. In fact, there is one that's been done. An early Series 1 3-door has been done by ECC in Wales. That's a glorious thing.
It's a good choice because the engines in them were flaky. It's simple as that.
They were flaky, and he put the battery and motors from a Model S P85.
Oh, that'll do it.
Oh, that's yeah. But of course, electric cars are beautifully suited, or electric powertrain is beautifully suited for off-roading. All the torque, low down torque.
Oh, lovely.
Perfect. And of course, you stick that in a Range Rover, which was, quite good at off-roading anyway. You keep all the locking diffs and the, axle articulation and all that kind of stuff that it was very good at. Couple that to something that can really put the low down torque out. You've got a serious off-road machine.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Again, you're looking proper money to buy a Series 1 Rangy, and then you're looking at 20-25 grand to have it converted. It's not on the list really.
No, it's not feasible at this moment in time.
However, we have drifted somewhat from the XFS that we were discussing.
That's true. You now need to follow it up with your next choice, and I'm going to tell you whether you've got it in the correct order.
Okay. Well, the next choice, I'm still with Jaguar on the next choice.
Oh, are you?
That's
interesting.
Yeah. I thought.
And a shock. You say?
A shock?
No.
Is it? No. The next choice is Jaguar XK.
Oh
So we're
no,
deviating somewhat here from the theme. No,
bit of deviation, but Joe, your ordering is correct. Yeah, that comes higher up than XFS. Yes, very good choice. Very good.
now we're looking here at the 4.2 V8.
Mm.
Ideally a facelift. The
Okay.
earlier ones, as gorgeous as they are, they're just getting to that age where I think the exterior is aging well, the interior isn't.
Mm.
And again, for the sort of budget that I'd be thinking of here, you're talking a high mileage one that's probably got a few issues. So I'm ruling out not the original XK, because obviously those now go for hundreds of thousands of pounds. 90s one.
Okay, so you're
Ideally
looking
looking at
sort of...
a 2016 to 2014, and it would be the lower end of that. And for a 4.2 V8 2006 XK, you're up around 9-10 grand, which is pushing my budget quite hard.
Yeah, a lovely looking thing though.
Lovely looking things. 600 quid on tax. Actually, the one thing we didn't touch on, the XFS actually has the lowest tax rate of any of the cars on my list. It's only 200 quid a year because, of course, much newer car, diesel, much better emissions. A
I'll be
4.2 V8.
honest, I don't give a toss about the tax.
No, it's not a big issue for me, but it has formed part of my analysis. So
That's fine.
I
But
don't
I
want to be
will...
excluding any data here, just in case someone's following along here. And
No, that's fine. But I will
we're
not be judging you on tax.
we're
Just to
teetering
make
on
you
the brink
aware.
of consumer advice again here.
Steady. We've done that before.
Easy, Tiger.
We've had. I know of a certain listener who's already been looking at Porsche 996s, thinking it was a viable daily driver. So
Really,
yeah,
not as a result of our pathetic advice, surely.
hey, oh, it was.
Oh no! Oh, the responsibility. Well, let's crack on with the XK then, because it might be in his wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, it's in the same area, isn't it? Really.
Great thing about those later XKs is that they're a hatchback, which means a little bit more practicality.
Oh yeah, you could. That's
Not a lot.
Really usable. It's fine. Shh.
Not a lot. That Christmas tree still ain't going in, but
I'll help you with that. Don't worry.
But I did consider them 300 brake horse in one of those. We're not looking at XKRs here. Those are again are still too much. The ordinary XK8.
But it's still going to have that torque. It's still going to be
plenty,
urgent, and the noise is going to be good.
That 4.2 V8 again. It's the same V8 in the X308 XJR. It's the same V8 used in the S-Type. It was an engine. It's the AJ-V8 engine that Jaguar used in everything. I think that even found its way into the early but newer Range Rovers.
I think you're right.
The L322, sir, I believe.
Very good. Yes.
Might have been a 4.2.
Yeah, I think it was early doors. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, coil springs on that, not air. So very tempting. No practicality at all in that, but nevertheless, it's an XK, isn't it? It's an XK V8.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't really give a toss about the practicality because I'm just going to be pestering you for a little drive in it. So
you'd be all over that one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, you'd be right round. Yeah, absolutely. So there's that, and that one stands out on the list because it's the only thing on the list actually that is not either a saloon or an estate.
Yeah, well, you said it's a stopgap, and you could be having a bit of fun.
Could be.
It's a valid choice. It's a good choice as well.
I think it could be. So we're coming down to it now.
Oh, we're at the business end.
We're down to we're at the business end now. We've
ascended. How many we got left?
We've got two left, but one of them has variations.
Good, right? Okay, I can work with that.
And the final one will probably lead to some lengthy discussion in itself. The next one, and let me just make sure that I have the relevant details to hand here. Yes, indeed. So the next choice is a BMW, the BMW E38 7 Series.
Another Bond contender.
Another Bond contender, and a truly gorgeous car.
Such a just really elegant design.
They
Not
got
over
it
the top.
spot on with that. It is one of the best looking BMWs of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Now,
I could see you in one of
The
those.
force is strong with that. Now, for my budget, I'd be looking at an older car than virtually anything else on my list, but they are available in budget.
Mhm.
Not the V12 versions, although they are quite rare.
Yeah, they weren't popular, really, were they?
No, no, they. I don't think they shifted many. Certainly not over here.
No.
But you don't see them very often. The sweet spot seems to be the 740. Well, either at the sort of entry level engine wise, the 728, which is still a perfectly respectable engine in those. So either the 728 or the 740. The 750s, the V12s, very hard to find and beyond budget. 740s, there are a few around.
Mhm.
The 728s, though, there are quite a few around and are a much more sensible price. But in those, the small engine really is an option, in my opinion.
What about? I am right thinking there were a few interim ones. Was there a 735 as well? For
There
the
was a seven, yeah. There
smaller
was,
V8s
yeah, there was a 735.
and a 730, I believe, actually.
You could well be right.
They did varying sizes of V8.
Yeah, there's certainly a 735i because there's a few I'm seeing for sale. And again, yeah, they're not bad budget wise. So yeah, I think the lower end, if you like, lower in inverted commas, of the engine ranges in those is where you are. The V12s are not realistic, really.
Oh no, the 750.
Yes, your new BMW 750. Yes, the only person to ever have said it like that.
Yes, well, we'll forgive Desmond.
We will.
Fine
chap.
Oh, a lovely chap. I think if I'm going to weigh in here at all, I'd have to say, please get a V8 if you're going to buy one of these.
Not the 6.
I think I'd have to say go V8. It's not with the BMW. It's not going to be a shouty one. It's going to be smooth yet urgent.
Oh yeah. I
agree. You're going to win any traffic light Grand Prix as well, but you're not going to make it. Yes. You're not going to make a fuss while doing it either. There'll be no fanfare. You'll just depart.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. They've got something about them. I have just found a 750 actually for.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh no. Sorry. No. Sold. Yeah. There are a few. There's a few 728s. There's a few 735s around. All lovely and all within budget. Now, as I say, it's an older car, so it's not going to have a lot of the niceties of some of the other cars that we've talked about on this list, but it is very tempting. As I say, this and one other are the two that are vying for top position.
Yeah, but you say like it won't have the features that are quite tempting, but you think it's still quite a luxury car.
Oh, it is.
And you think the probably one thing that may hold it back is the entertainment system, which could be easily tweaked.
True. Yes, that's true. What do you not do from your phone these days anyway?
Exactly.
As long as it's got an aux in, I can probably work with that. Yeah. There's a lot of upgrades knocking around now, aren't there, for these older cars, make them work with more modern tech. The BM E38, yeah, is really tempting. They are quite spectacular for the sort of budget. We're talking 2001, 2002, and there are quite a few really nice ones around. They tend to you rarely see a rough one. They tend to have been looked after.
Yeah, it's one of those cars, isn't it? You're not going to buy it and rag it. And styling wise, it doesn't. It just doesn't really date, does it?
No, not at all. No, it hasn't.
Good looking thing.
Yeah, they are really classy, kind of classless in some ways.
Oh yeah,
it's very understated. The engine almost is a secondary thing because it doesn't matter which engine you go for, it's going to be smooth and quiet and deliver the power, in a way that is pleasing to the rear.
yes, it's going to be adequate.
Yeah, yes, as Rolls-Royce used to say. Yes. The power output is adequate. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, it is going to be very like that because it's a big wafty luxury barge.
It is. It's lovely. Nice big boot. It's got it all. Very, which is why it's made it up this far on my list, and it's a list that's fluctuated a lot.
I'd be happy if you put that on your driveway.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would object to that. It's got the same thing about it, actually, a little bit as the era of XJ that we're talking about. It's very low and sleek.
Yes,
it's got that thing about it.
Oh yeah.
And as you rightly said at the top of this piece, it's a Bond car on a budget.
It really is, and well, I mean, like we've discussed before, I think it's both you and I. It's our favourite of the Bond era for Pierce Brosnan.
Yes. Oh, absolutely, it is. Yeah. Well, the rest of them were a bit of a waste of space, to be honest.
Well, the BMWs were, and while yes, he did get to Vanquish, they spoiled it by being too silly with that.
Yes, they did. Yes, the Aston Martin Vanish. Oh, please.
The less said about Die Another Day, the better.
And those early Vanquishes were actually not very good. So
no, they don't get good press.
The ones that are out
gearboxes,
there, appalling gearboxes. The ones that are out there now, a lot of them have had a lot of work done on them to make them better.
Manual conversions as well.
Yeah, I was going to say there are some out there. Of course, Bonds did have a manual box, but it wasn't the neatest conversion because it was done by the stunt team.
It was. Didn't it end up? Didn't they have the engine out? Didn't it end up with a Corvette engine or something like that?
Yeah, it was either that or a Mustang engine. Yeah, it certainly didn't have its original engine or its original transmission. So it wasn't really an Aston Martin anymore. But yeah, manual conversions on them because the auto box on those was horrific. Yeah, a lot of problems with those Vanquishes. So certainly from the Brosnan era, the 750, although probably wouldn't go for a 750.
No. Is the correct choice for Bond vehicle from a Brosnan period in time.
Yeah, it is. So one of those is really tempting. I'm very, very torn between that and what is currently at the top of my list, or certainly at equal top of the list with that.
Okay, go on then. Let's put everyone out the misery.
At the very top of the list, and no one will be surprised by this probably, is a Jaguar S-Type.
Oh, a Jaguar?
Yeah, for a change.
Right.
Specifically, in an ideal world, the Jaguar S-Type R.
Yep, that's the one, isn't it? Really,
That's the one.
Yeah,
it was available with various engines. The 3-litre V6 I've looked at, but the 4.2-litre supercharged V8 in the R is really where it's at, and I think that's a car that's kind of bottomed out at the moment, and I would be confident that will start to go up because V8 Jags do when they reach a sort of plateau. And I think the S-Type's a car that's been largely ignored for quite a long time now. The R version, particularly, which they didn't make for that long, they made it for 5 years, and it was the end of the run. They didn't do the R version initially. The S Type, I think I'm right in saying, was launched in 1998 at the Birmingham Motor Show alongside the Rover 75.
Yeah, that sounds right from our previous episodes.
But they didn't introduce the supercharged V8 R version until 2002.
Right.
So
Okay, that's quite a gap, isn't it?
Yeah, and it underwent the S Type in general underwent 3 facelifts. The R underwent 2. I prefer the look of the first version of the R, which was the second version of the S Type.
I know exactly the one you mean, and I agree with that. Yeah,
that was the best looking, and of course the R was the top of the range. It was as good as an S Type ever got.
Right. Yeah, and I genuinely think that's the only model of S Type to consider.
Yeah,
I'm going to call that now.
I certainly wouldn't consider it the diesel, because it was an horrible diesel in that one. And the 3-litre V6. I mean, yes, they're cheaper to buy, but it just doesn't do it. It's got to be the V8.
Do you know something? It really irks me in various Jag models. When you put a 6 in a Jag, it should be in line.
Not a V. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Bothers me.
Yeah, but yes, it's troublesome. And when it's a V6 diesel, yeah.
But
so yeah. I think the S Type R, they cosmetically it looks nicer. It's got a body kit on it, but a very tasteful body kit. You get bigger alloys, you get better seats, you got the sort of mesh grille. It was lowered, little subtle boot spoiler. The S Type R just looks really, really nice. It's a really really kind of chunky, beefy car. Just lowering it a little bit, and it hasn't got massive alloys on it because cars didn't at that age, but they're just enough, and they're bigger than the standard ones. And they put Jaguar logos on the brake caliper. They didn't make red brake calipers; they were still silver, but they put the Jaguar R logos on them. Just a little subtle. Lots of little subtle touches, like they embossed the R logo into the headrests and things. Little things like that just set it apart. And the force is strong with the S Type R. And my only problem, as the regular listener will know, I do have a bit of a thing for Jags, and I find them kind of difficult to get out of the system. Even in the last 4 years, when I've been driving the Tesla, every so often I'll look down at the badge on the steering wheel and think, yeah, it's not Jag, is it? Even though it's brilliant, and in fact it's much better than Jaguar's all-electric offering, but you just something about Jag. And my only problem, as gorgeous as the BMW we've been discussing is, I just have this horrible thing that one day I'd be in it sitting at the traffic lights, and an S Type R would pull up next to me, and I would look across and I'd just think, wish I'd had one of those. I can't get it out of my system. I just can't. And I know the BMW is probably technically a better car. Although, having said that, budget-wise, I can get a newer S-Type than I can E38 7.
You can. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a more reliable car.
Oh, no, not at all. And I will not for 1 minute claim that buying an old S-Type means it's going to be super reliable.
Okay, right.
But that's not what we're, that's not only what we're discussing. Again, tax on them is about the same. Not that that's a massive issue. The S-Type will probably make a better noise.
It will be a bit more shouty than
it will be a bit
the
more
BMW
shouty
V8
because it's supercharged, and the supercharger on those S-Types is very prominent.
There'll be a whine.
The XJR of that era was the same. The whine was almost louder than the kind of roar of the V8.
I'm quite childish. I quite like that.
Yeah, I quite like that too. It makes a bit more. It makes its presence a bit more felt. Given where we live, the S-Type is a little bit smaller. and I do live
Okay.
at the end. I do live at the end of a narrow lane, as we know. The S Type, I think, it just has a little bit. I'm not going to say it has more presence to it, because that E38 series is, it exudes presence. But the S Type has
Yeah.
presence as well, and the S Type, it's a little bit more unusual. It was styled to be a sort of modern take on the original S Type from the 60s, but no Jag has really looked like that before. It didn't follow the family line of what else they were doing at the time.
No, that's
It-
true.
it's a little bit different. It was a bit of a one-off, which I quite like. I don't know. It's difficult.
Let me summarize on your list a little bit for you.
Please do.
Strictly as an observer, who you should adhere to the letter, you're going to need to bin off the XJ and the XF.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so.
I'm going to say that's a hard no from me on those. Not because I don't like either of them. It's just, if you're about to have an interim car which is going to tick many boxes that gratify you, I'd say not those.
Well, plus the XFS, I've already done. I've had one, and
And
I don't really want the same car twice.
no, that's
So
fine. And the
yeah.
XJ was leaning far too near to a diesel. That's a no. Not you can't
Yeah.
have fun and diesel in the same arena, I'm afraid.
To look at an XJR within budget, I'm going back even further, and I think that's possibly asking for too many problems.
Yep, I think you're right, and I think
You're going
that's
back past 2000. You're going back into the late 90s, and that's getting on a bit now. And
yeah,
they weren't the best built cars in the first place. You're looking at an X308 to get an XJR.
that's it.
Realistically,
Yeah,
there are a few around X350s, but not many. And I just think you're opening up a can of worms with an XJ of that era.
yes,
Um,
no,
Not to say
that
you wouldn't be with an S Type as well, but it's
no, that's fine. So that leaves right at the bottom of your list. You've got the Mondeo there,
yeah.
which is
Now,
still
it's a funny one, that isn't it?
it's still a thinking man's choice. That's less obvious than all of the others.
It is less obvious. It's possibly going to be more reliable.
Yeah, I think you stand a chance of it being a safe pair of hands.
Cheaper to maintain.
Yep.
Not much cheaper to tax, but excluding that for a minute, it's also a proper estate car, so it's going to be uber practical.
Yeah.
It does tick many boxes. The Mondeo. It's a funny one, that.
Okay. Well, that whittles it down. I mean, ultimately, I don't think you're going to buy one.
No, neither do I. It's a nice idea.
Okay. Right. Well, I know we've still got the XK left on the list, and while I like that, I don't think you're going to buy one of those either.
It's not. I know practicality shouldn't be part of this, but it just isn't. That's not practical at all. And I do occasionally need to carry things for my work.
Okay. Yeah, that's not going to get it done.
Servers and the like, and it ain't going in that. So
not without ruining the leather.
Well, exactly. It's going to have to go in the passenger seat.
Yeah, it's not a good look, is it?
No. And if I brake too hard, it's going through the windscreen. So.
Oh shit.
That'd be the word to use in that situation. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm going to call it then.
Okay.
In a sensible world where Desmond Llewellyn rules, you should buy the BMW. However, you're going to buy an S Type.
Well, you've thought that all along. As soon as this subject came up, you've been saying, well, I don't know why you're looking at anything else. You're going to buy an S Type. You just are.
Yeah, I don't know. You've just looked at so many things and and ahed.
Well, it's an important decision. I want to get it right.
It is, but I told you the answer right at the beginning.
Yeah, I know. I didn't believe you. Well, I want to. I don't like to be told. I want to do my own thinking. Even if I do end up at the same conclusion.
Listen to the voice of reason.
Yeah. S Type, but it's got to be an R.
Yeah, I agree. If you buy anything that's not an R, then I'm going to be angry.
Yeah, because if I don't buy the R, I'd be better off with the BMW.
Yes.
I think that's where we are, isn't it? If I can't have an R, then it's got to be the Beamer.
Yep. Because if you go back to the point of saying, well, these could be a little investment piece, an S-Type R will be.
Yeah, I
And
agree. I think it will.
And
Yeah.
I think an E38 in a decent spec will be.
Yeah, I think either of those could be. But
Mm.
the S-Type R, it's just, I think it just edges it for me. It's just that little bit more special.
Yeah, it's a bit more theatre about it, and it's got a Jag badge on it, which for you is very important.
It seems to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a sense of patriotism. I don't know if it's the fact that, the Jag, the S-Type, particularly in the old Mark II, were very much the sort of bad boys car, which I quite like. They were the naughty car.
Yes.
As you said the other week, they get the lads out of trouble super speedy.
Yeah, that's it. Not bother.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
but that's it. There's that lure of that, because if you were in a logical world, you'd go and buy a BMW.
Yes, you would.
And you wouldn't be disappointed. But
no, not at all.
Because you've got that thing for a Jag, but just buy one of those, stop titting about.
Just go and find a nice one and get on with it. Yes.
Yeah, not one that's done galactic mileage.
No.
You want one with a dark interior to please the lady, and you've got the big shouty. Well, no, not overly shouty V8, but enough noise to make you behave like a child.
It's just enough, I think, in the S-Type. Yeah, it's not silly loud, although they can be tuned to be like that. But I've seen a few on YouTube that have had muffler deletes and special exhaust systems, and they've shortened the supercharger pulleys to get it up to 450 brake horse and things like that.
Oh yeah, that'll get.
But I'm not into any of that. I'm very much into originality. I want one that's not been mucked about with. Of any car, to be honest, irrelevant of what it is. I never want one that's been particularly messed about with. Factory original wins with me. I don't like messing with something. In fact, I have had things in the past where I have removed mods and put them back to factory spec.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's one of those things that it floats your boat, so you go for it, mate.
I think the S-Type R, for me is what's going to give me that. I'm going to look out the window and say, oh, yeah, glad I got one of those. Yes.
Right. Well, we've whittled that down.
That's it. We've whittled that right down. Yes.
Yeah, no messing about. That's what you need to buy. You don't clear your watch list, fill it only with S-Type Rs.
Yeah, I've already done that.
Good. Told you.
There's quite a few around, actually. Quite. I say quite a few. I mean, 5 or 6.
Enough to keep you interested. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
And don't you worry where it is. We'll go there.
You've said that. Yeah. Don't let location put me off. Yeah.
Oh no.
You'll get me there. Yes. One way or another.
Well, that's the thing. I've got the vehicle for it. It's big, it's comfy, and it's not going to cost us a fortune.
That's very true, actually. Yeah. No, that will cost me a fortune on the way back.
It will. And the good thing is, just to please the listener, we'll film the collection.
Oh,
there you go.
Well, that's quite a commitment you've made there.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if it's 5 hours away, we'll do the entire motorway journey and film
a 6-hour blog.
No one needs to hear burps and farts on a motorway journey for that length of time.
Hours and hours and hours.
Maybe the highlights.
We're stopping for the 3rd McDonald's of the day.
Yeah. I mean, if we're away early enough, I'm getting a McMuffin. Don't you worry.
Oh no, we need those in the car, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it depends where it is, and rules permitting, we might be able to have a little overnight stay out of it.
We're allowed to. We are within the rules at present.
We are. So if we time that right, we'll see. I'm not going to go crazy at it. It has to be the right car.
No, that's it.
Jump at the first one I see. We're going to
no impulse buys.
Now the prices are ranging from quite high mile ones that have had quite a bit of welding to ones that are not that. So because they do, they are susceptible to the old tin worm.
Yeah, well, that's all right. I mean, just a bit of shopping around, you'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we'll have a bit of a collection caper, as Mr. Hubnut calls it. Yes.
Oh yes, no, well, well up for that, mate.
I
Love
think
it.
we've sorted that out proper.
Good. I'm glad I helped there.
You're very useful. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah,
That's it. I told you I'd be the voice of reason.
you did. You also told me you'd tell me to do what I thought I was going to do anyway. you went strong early with that. You called it a long way out.
I did, yeah, and I was right.
You just seemed to know that that's what it was
Oh
going to be.
yeah. Well,
There was no
I'm
doubt in your mind.
I'm tuned in on certain frequencies, mate.
You do seem to be. You do seem to be. Maybe that's why this weird old thing we call the podcast is working.
Oh yeah, that's it. This is my weird. Yeah, I'm a weirdo. That's why it works.
We're both a bit strange. That's probably the charm of it. Yeah. Comment below. Why the hell are you listening to this? I'm genuinely interested. Well, I think that's probably enough of that for this week. Check us out on all the various social medias and things. Thank you very much for listening.